In 1942 in Louisville, Kentucky, Mr. and Mrs. Cassius Marcellus Clay christened their newborn son Cassius Clay, Jr. 22 years later, Cassius Clay renounced his name and its associations and elected to call himself Muhammad Ali, which is, of course, how we shall refer to him tonight, even as tomorrow, should he change his name back, we would refer to him as Cassius Clay. In changing his name, Muhammad Ali intended to disavow his culture and to adopt membership in the black Muslim movement of which he is an apostle. When, a little bit later, he was called by the Selective Service Board to serve in the armed forces, Muhammad Ali explained that he was proof against such laws as a minister of the Islamic faith, as taught by Elijah Muhammad. The courts were not impressed. The boxing commissioners stripped him of his boxing crown, and very soon, assuming the Supreme Court of the United States goes along, Muhammad Ali will go to jail or renounce his citizenship and forfeit his bail. Muhammad Ali defended his world heavyweight crown 6 times in 11 months and won them all. His career as a boxer, until he dropped Sonny Liston dead in his tracks, was ridiculed as primarily an act of self-promotion, an art at which young Cassius Clay was greatly proficient. "I'm the greatest," he told everyone. "They all must fall in the round I call," he versified. And just about the time that he had established his supremacy beyond reasonable doubt, he felt the afflatus of Elijah Muhammad, and here we are. He had been something very special. Quotes, "I was the onlyest boxer in history people asked questions like a senator," he had said. But even so, he wouldn't have it otherwise. I'd like to begin by asking Mr. Ali, what makes him believe that the same country that glorified Joe Louis would want to persecute you?
First of all, I would like to thank you for the brief introduction. You covered a lot of space in such a short time. You did make a few points that I would like to straighten up, and I'm sure you did this without knowledge of what you were saying. When I did not take the name, or just name myself Cassius Clay, this is an honorable name, Muhammad Ali, given to me by my religious leader and teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And I would like to say that Muhammad means in Arabic, one who's worthy of praise is one praiseworthy, and Ali means the Most High. But the slave name Clay meant dirt with no ingredients. But what
the slave word which?
Clay means dirt with no ingredients. Names have meanings in different countries. And I also would like to say that I'm not an apostle of the Muslim religion. We believe that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is the apostle of Allah God, but I'm only a helper and a minister of his. And I also like to say that you mentioned that when I accepted Cassius Clay, I disowned or disannounced my culture. Well, I did not disregard my culture. If I did, it was the white American culture. And I've accepted my true culture when I accepted Muhammad Ali, because this is a black name. Islam is the black man's religion. And so I would like to say that I would like to clarify that point, that I reclaimed my real culture, and that's being a black man and wearing a black name with a black body and not a white name. So I want to say that I didn't disown my culture. But I would say I've put down a lot of the white American culture and ways and beliefs. And answering your last question about Joe Louis and me, why was he so praised and me not? Well, I would like to speak from my knowledge. The reason I can see is Joe Louis was what you would call, or what a white would call, a good red-blooded American boy who went to the army and told the world we must fight for our country. And he, in his times, we didn't have the protesting and the things that we're having today. But I would say that I receive respect by not only blacks around the world, and I'm a Muslim, but all throughout white America, more so than any boxer, including Joe Louis, and mainly by the college youth of today. So I'm just a lot different from, I would say, Joe Louis. So I guess that's why I'm looked at different.
Well, I understand the point that you make, and I think you make it very well. But you have, in fact, said publicly on a number of occasions that America was looking for a way to get back at you because we are a white culture. And I'm asking you, if we were looking for a way to get at you, why was it that Joe Louis was so popular with the same white America.
Well, I can't recall.
Why did we have it in for you?
I can't recall saying whites as a whole was out to get me, because many know nothing about me or care nothing about me or what I believe. And what I believe or what I do will never harm them, nor will they have to come in my path. But I did make a statement that many of the boxing authorities and the people who wanted to get me out of the way couldn't do it physically. And many people, I'm sure, in government. So the legal way they could say, take the title and then make it look justifiable to the public was to say that he wouldn't serve his country. Twice, if you recall, I was denounced by the draft. In Florida, I was illiterate. They didn't want me. Then they had a special psychiatrist to come to Kentucky. They checked me and they didn't want me. But as soon as my name was Muhammad Ali, as soon as I announced I was a Muslim, then all of a sudden I became smart.
Well, then you do believe that. You believe that you were drafted only because you changed your name to Muhammad Ali and joined the Muslim religion. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. They knew that I wasn't going. They know the government. They know the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his followers. The jails are packed with Muslims, but this would justify my title being taken. And
yeah.
This
well, now,
justifiable.
if you hadn't changed your name and your religion, in your judgment, you would have continued to have been listed as undraftable?
I believe so, yes.
Now,
it's debatable. You have a right to, you know, say what you believe, and, you know, have a right to say what I believe.
Sure, let's not fight over it. The reason I ask this because I'm anxious to know, in the course of appealing to the courts, your lawyer must have made that point, but apparently it made that point unsuccessfully. So did they, in fact, ask the draft board to explain how come all of a sudden they reclassified you? Did the draft board give a plausible reason for doing so?
They asked the draft board to explain a lot. So as a matter of fact, I have about 675 documents I had of handwritten letters by Baptist preachers and some white and Muslim ministers and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The question was, is he really sincere? Mm-hmm. And like right now, I consider myself in court now. I done faced one white judge, and now I'm looking at you, and I already had one white jury and audience, such as I have here now, and it really makes, I have to be real cool and not savage and radical, because it makes me angry when I think about it. When I see the white boys, who are really the #1 citizens, the future rulers, when I see them by the hundreds leaving the country, see the white preachers breaking into draft board houses in Wisconsin and Baltimore, turn the files out of the walls, and making a bonfire out of 4,000 and 5,000 draft cards, pouring blood on them. And I see them go to court and the judge say 2 years, and I get 5 years for legally doing what's legal. I say if I lose, I'm going.
Now wait a minute. Now, you say legally, but
you can denounce the draft on any grounds. You have to go to court. If you lose, you pay. You have to be a man and pay your sentence, which I said I'm going to do. I'm not leaving the country. Mm-hmm. But this is legal. What I'm doing is legal. If you're guilty, you got to pay. But what I'm doing is legal. So the people, I'm not using these people as an excuse to do.
But now wait a minute. The 5 years that you're talking about is for doing something illegal in the eyes of the court system of the United States, right?
No, sir. It's not illegal in the court system to not take the step if your grounds are justifiable and you can prove it. And then
but you couldn't prove it.
Yes, we had the proof. Here's what I was getting ready to say that makes a black man hot, if you understand. Our first wife I had to divorce. This is before the draft come up, because she wouldn't wear a dress as long. I think you remember this. This was headline news. It cost me $250,000. I'm paying $1,200 a month now in alimony. I paid $96,000 in lawyers' fees. Now, if this is not sincerity, I don't know what. Then I like to... No, I'm not trying to be funny.
No, I don't doubt your sincerity. I'm talking about legality and sincerity are two different things. You can be perfectly sincere, for instance, in desiring to break a law, but it's still a broken law,
What I'm saying is that this sincerity was not recognized. I mean, the files, the papers, everything we had. You asked me a question.
Yeah.
Did you say to the draft board that when you accepted Muhammad Ali, they seemed to change, and that if he was Cassius Clay, they wouldn't have? Well, all these things was brought up, but they completely overlooked it.
Well, let's grant the sincerity of a couple of judges and quote them. I think it's only fair to do so under the circumstances. Sir. One of them The first one you approached said that Cassius Clay, quote, claims to be a minister of the lost found nation of Islam and maintains he was due a ministerial exemption from the draft. His vocation is clearly that of a professional boxer. His point was that, in fact, you were a professional boxer, not a minister.
What we did tell the judge there, he said, if you're a minister, why are you boxing? At the time I heard the Islamic teachings as taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I was in about $138,000 worth of debt. And this debt had to be paid. And boxing was my way of paying my debt. But I would say one thing. I was asked in a way when they said take the step, choose between the wealth of America, the millions of dollars, and the title, or the ministry. So I chose the ministry, or if I was not sincere, then I would have easily went to Vietnam, boxed exhibitions, and made a couple of cool million.
No, I don't think anybody in his right mind would doubt your sincerity.
Well, this is what the whole thing's about.
No, I don't think so. The question is whether or not you fit into certain specifications as defined by the law.
Right.
Now, for instance, the judge in the next higher court ruling against you said that you, quote, claimed objections to participation in war insofar as they are based upon the teachings of the Nation of Islam, resting on grounds which primarily are political and racial. These constitute only objections to certain types of war in certain circumstances, rather than a general scruple against participation in war of any form. However, under the law, only a general scruple against participation in war in any form can support an exemption as a conscientious objector. Now that makes sense.
Right.
That's not anti-you, is it?
Right, you're right. One thing I would like to say is that I'd have to admit and tell you this. My first lawyer, who was a black man, he was pretty well versed, but not versed enough. And I was a minister at the time that they called me. I was doing the minister work throughout the country for the teachings of Islam as taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And his hardship was my first case. He said, this is what we'll do. Then they were going to grant us the thing on hardship. But still, I would have to work in a hospital or something, but not carry weapons. Well, I couldn't do this.
Why?
Well, the Holy Quran, our religious book, teaches us that we who declare ourselves to be righteous Muslims do not participate in no wars, no way, fashion, or form that take the lives of other humans. And so what I'm saying is that I should have told, it's my fault in a way too, I should have told the lawyer that I'm not participating in no kind of way. So, but the two, and after he failed that, he went on another ground, had to support my mother, which was not enough to keep me from going in some kind of way. So then Hayden Covington, a wiser lawyer from Washington who we hired, he said, you're a minister. I said, that's right. He said, well, this is how you should have went it first. Because a minister don't have to take part in nothing, a hospital, nothing. He said, the only way you're going to get out is to go in as a minister. And I didn't know it. My first lawyer, he came up talking about this is not so. The other lawyer proved to me that it was so. Then when we filed it to ministry, I have to admit that it did look phony to the public. Well, at first he tried to get by because of his conscious objectives. Yeah. Second, he had to support his mother. Now he's a minister. But if we had went in first with the ministry, I'm sure it would have been much easier. So this is why the judges say this and say that, because it did look funny because we made the wrong moves at first.
Well, but then if that's the case, it's incorrect to blame them, isn't it?
The lawyers?
Yeah. No, the judges.
No.
You know, the judges take whatever arguments you present.
Well, I'm not blaming the judges. I'm not crying. I told them my bags are packed and clean out my cell because I'm ready to go to jail. I'm not crying. I'm not hijacking no planes. I'm not leaving the country. I have my draft card. It's not burnt. So what I would say is that the lawyers should have went another way. And I would say that they should have known better, but I'm not crying about it. I'm a man. And I would like to say that the judges can look at this as a fraud in the beginning if they want, and then they can still look at the third case. Is he sincere as a minister, or is he real? But I'm just talking about this because you brought it up, but you don't hear me protesting over things that are happening to me. I'm just playing it bare. I rely on Almighty God, Allah, and whatever happens, happens. I'm not trying to convince the jury or the judge that I'm sincere. We took the papers in, we did the best, we go under the law, and what happens, happens. But we sure that they know that I am.
Mr. Lee, you say that your religion prohibits participation in any war at all. My own understanding from reading the works of Muhammad Elijah is that the prohibition is against, quotes, white Christian wars. Now, do you mean that your own religion is different from his in this particular respect, that you consider yourself a pacifist?
My religion is different from whose?
From Elijah Muhammad.
No, I follow him. Well, I can't be different from him. I follow him.
You follow him. So you would take his word for it if he says that the only wars that are forbidden are participation in white Christian wars. This leaves some wars in which you would be willing to participate.
The Quran said we take part in no wars, no way, fashion, or form that take the lives of other humans. And it also says, unless it's a holy war declared by Allah or one of his prophets or messengers, and this haven't been.
Well, but in fact, the black Muslims in America, as you know, have made considerable modifications on the Quran.
I like to say one thing, sir.
Yeah.
We cannot change the Quran or make no modifications. It cannot be done, or it would no longer be holy if we did. But I would say, I'd like to say another thing while we're here. The people here, college students, look intelligent. I understand you're a intelligent man. We are not black Muslims. We are Muslims. See, you have Catholics, you have Chinese Catholics, you have Indian Catholics, you have black Catholics, you have white Catholics. Mm-hmm. But I'm sure you don't ask the man, are you a white Catholic, are you a Chinese, are you a yellow Catholic, or a red Catholic, or a white Catholic? He's just a Catholic. We have black Muslims, we have brown Muslims, we have red Muslims, we have yellow Muslims, and even white complected Muslims. So I'd like to clear that point. This is a press word, black Muslim. Islam religion has no color distinction. We are just Muslims, and I'd like to clarify.
Yes, but I know that you're aware, though, Mr. Lee, that rigorous members of the Islamic faith have denounced the American Muslim movement.
Well, I would like
the one that we're referring to, on the grounds of its heterodoxy. They say simply that a lot of rules are sort of made in Chicago which have really no bearing. For instance, the whole notion of the sainted race and all that kind of business.
I'd like to say one thing. Many people are quick to say that we are not recognized by Muslims in the East. I'll start with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. In 1959, he went throughout the holy city of Mecca. He dined and wined with Nasser of Egypt and all of the black, mainly the rulers of the Islamic countries. I left his house a few days ago, and about 7, 8 scholars of Islam constantly come to his house from Lebanon, Syria, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Indonesia. When I was sentenced to jail, Muhammad Ouaida, the Supreme Council of all Islamic affairs, it was in the paper, it was in the back page in no small writing, they didn't want too many people to see it. It said, in the name of 600 million Muslims, Muhammad Ali is a Muslim, he's recognized by us also, and do not jail him. The president of Turkey, it was in the papers here in America, wrote over, bearing witness that I was a Muslim and recognized. The president of Syria and Lebanon, I have ate dinner with Nasser 3 times in his palace. I was invited by King Faisal to open the pilgrimage to Mecca with him hand in hand, where 600 million Muslims from all over the world come. And Elijah Muhammad's son, Herbert Muhammad, has just left for Kuwait, invited by the government. So daily Muslims come to our mosques in Cleveland, Washington, wherever we have colleges, they all come to our centers. We all are recognized.
Yeah,
so,
but
this is false propaganda, I just want to say.
Well, if it's false propaganda, why, for instance, should it have been propagated by Malcolm X?
I like to say, I'm not trying to be funny, and I hope the people don't laugh.
Sure.
But I barely got out of high school, and the word propagated by Malcolm X. What do you mean when you say propagated?
Well, I mean, Malcolm X came back, as you know, from the Mideast, and renounced the movement of Elijah Muhammad precisely on the grounds that it was not the same kind of Islam faith which he found very attractive.
Well, I would like to say one thing about I don't know too much about what he saw, but he was there in 1959, I think, before, and he saw that there were white Muslims. But Malcolm X got famous mainly being hard on people like you, white people, white devils, you blue-eyed, blonde-headed dog. Oh, he got famous like this. And he had made so many white enemies whites cared nothing about Malcolm nor so-called Negroes when he was with Donovan Elijah Muhammad, but they seemed to love and follow dead leaders, people. But I would like to say this.
Yeah, white people didn't kill him.
No, I would like to say this. He was a man, everything he had came from Donovan Elijah Muhammad. And when he denounced or was put out for various reasons of the faith, then he had to, from what I understood, this is me talking, I'll be to blame if I say anything wrong, he had to get back with you all. And he, in other words, he seemed to be apologizing for things that he had said because the protection of Allah and the Muslims were not with him. But I would like to say that we are
you think that he tried to make himself pleasing to the white community
this
because
is
he had antagonized
This is
Elijah
me
Muhammad.
talking. This is not antagonize him, but antagonize you.
No,
Okay.
but you say that...
I would like to say that whites jumped right behind him. They're making a book about him. There's required reading in all colleges now, and they're making a movie about him and projecting him as the leader. And if you read his book and see the movie that's coming out, it'll make you hate Elijah Muhammad and the Muslims. Mainly, this is done to turn the black people against the real leader. And I like to say that this is the way white people rule. This is your history. Divide and conquer. See, the first whites, your fathers, when they came over, they co-chiefs that running bulls stole his horses. Then after they got through fighting, and they came in and took over. And whites have always put one against another. And now they have a dead man who was nothing but and he admitted himself, Malcolm, was a tramp, had white women selling the body for him. He was nothing until the Honorable Elijah Muhammad made him great. Made him great. Taught him, even his name, X, come from Elijah. He gave him his name. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was an established leader before he was born. Now you seem to try to make it look like he was a leader and he was powerful. Everything I have, let me say one thing. I barely got out of school. I got out of school mainly because I was a champion. I actually didn't pass. I won't name the teachers that put me through. But you are a wise man. You're an intelligent man. And if I was not a Muslim or follower the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I couldn't talk to you for 2 minutes. And I believe I can hold my own as intelligent conversation with you. But it all comes from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But people praise me. Oh, you should be the leader. Well, you don't have to follow Elijah. Man, are you a fool? Everything I got come from him. He taught me who I was. He made me proud. He made me fearless. He made me love my own. I've turned down millions and to keep from selling out my people. The beautiful name Muhammad Ali. I now have 56 Muslim invitations by governments. All they ask me about when I go to those countries, how is Elijah Muhammad? White people, twice a day, 65 and 70, their bus stop in front of Elijah Muhammad's house, hoping to get a glimpse of him. And you cannot destroy me like you have other big ministers of his in the past by telling us, oh, you speak good, you should be the leader. See, this is to get me thinking that I'm smart. And as soon as I leave Elijah, you can get me. But as long as I stay with Donovan Elijah Muhammad, I'm safe. And if Malcolm X has stayed with the man that made him great, taught him everything he knew, today he'd been big, big, big. But as soon as, in other words, how can I come to your son and say you are wrong for spanking him when you fed him, you clothed him, you gave him his name, you birthed him in the world? Who am I to come in and be the judge and say, why did you spank that boy? You taught him, you have a right to spank him. And Malcolm X did some things. He said something about Kennedy that he shouldn't have said. 130 whites died tragically on a jet. He praised it. And Honorable Elijah Muhammad is not the kind of man to ordain it. So he had to spank him. And after you white people had told him how good he talked, he should be the leader, he couldn't take the spanking. He had to run out and start him a movement, and that's when you destroyed him. You understand? See, so I would say whites destroyed Malcolm X.
I understand what you say. I understand what you say, and I don't doubt either the sincerity or he might have thought, well, I've been following this man for a number of years, but all of a sudden I have reached a level of understanding which permits me to see that he's pretty human after all,
yes,
and that beyond a certain point he doesn't have anything to teach me.
He should have always known that he was human. and not having nothing to teach him.
You know,
this is silly.
some people treat him as though he were divine, you know.
Yeah, well,
the way
he's
they did
dead.
Father
He's
Divine
dead
would be another
now,
example.
and we don't talk about dead people. They're dead and they're gone.
Who's dead?
Malcolm X is dead.
Oh, yes.
And we follow Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who is the boss. And we'd rather not to stay here on the show and waste a lot of time arguing about a dead black man when whites are our common enemies.
Well, no doubt, of course, he teaches you that, and no doubt you understand.
We don't have to teach it. You don't have to teach a black man that whites is his enemy as well.
Well, you see, from my point of view, what Elijah Muhammad is doing to you is diseasing your mind. You sit and tell me that we white people like to divide and conquer.
You do.
I grew up as a white child. I heard much more talk against Democrats than I did against black people. And I grant there's a lot of division in the sense that Republicans are divided.
Democrats and Republicans don't lynch each other and castrate each other and burn each other and target and feather each other and rape and slave for 400 years.
Now, wait a minute. This is...
I would like to ask you a question. I'd like to ask you a question. Who, 22 million black people in America, who would you say our everyday common enemy is? What other country or what nationality? I mean, you know, you have the nerve to be on a TV show like this and look at me like I'm wrong for saying Elijah Muhammad is poisoning you by telling you that we're your enemies. Yeah. And I feel it and see it every day. And every black man watching this show know you are enemies. And you have the nerve to stand up here and say Elijah Muhammad is poisoning my mind. He cannot teach us that you are enemy. You taught us, and your people daily. Martin Luther King is bumped off unjustly. Adam Clayton Powers bumped off unjustly. They took my title unjustly. They killed Megas Ever unjustly. All the integrators who love white folks was unjustly kicked out of Washington. They've been deprived of education and poverty throughout the country. They just came back from Vietnam, 12 boys in Chicago, and they sat on the television and they told how white soldiers are teaching Viet Congs to hate them. They fly rebel communist flags, and they doing everything that they can to them right there in Vietnam. Now you're going to tell me that Elijah Muhammad and trying to make the public think that he's poisoning me by teaching us the truth. If here's his latest newspaper.
Now wait a minute.
Here's his latest. Don't hold it there. Here's his latest newspaper. Muhammad Speaks. Now it's full of truth. You can get the paper in every city. You can buy Muhammad Speaks. And if this, I mean, you're a wise man, but I don't think you're too much wiser than the ones who run the country in the White House.
Much wiser.
No.
Let me try to make this point, because
no one challenges nothing he teach. You're intelligent, I'm intelligent. We all know he's here. So I'm not here to tell you something you don't know about.
No. I'm simply telling you that you believe something which I happen to know isn't true.
Now hold it. See, what is it that I believe?
You believe
it's not true.
You believe that the entire white community is your enemy. I happen to know it's not your enemy. I doubt if there's anybody in this room who is your enemy.
I'll tell you what.
But I do believe that just as Hitler persuaded all the Germans to believe that all of the Jews were their enemy, that the people are engaged in spreading this kind of virulence, and that some very, very sincere people get caught up in it. You're an example of it. And under the circumstances, you end up doing a disservice to the cause that you really want to serve.
Would you say Martin LutherKing doing a disservice?
What is the relevance of that remark? Just whether you went to school or not, explain to me the relevance of that remark.
No, I'm asking you the question. You said I'm doing a disservice.
You mean because he was killed by a white man?
No.
So why say Malcolm X was killed by a black man?
I'm not talking about that.
So what else is new?
No, you're getting upset. I'm not talking about that.
Well,
all I asked you was Elijah Muhammad is doing a disservice or whatever it is that he's doing.
Yeah.
Well,
at one level he's doing it.
What's the level?
At the level of trying to persuade people that all white people are the same and despise Negro people.
All right, now number one.
At the level in which he urges you to self-pride, the rest of it he's doing you a great service.
Let's look at some of the things he's doing.
Excuse me 1 second, be right with you. Go ahead, Mr. Ali, excuse me.
You say one thing that he's doing that's not so good, trying to persuade black people that all white people are no good and our enemies.
Yeah.
You have about 180 million whites in America. And Madison Square Garden holds about how many people?
You know better than that.
About how many? About 20,000.
Like that, yeah.
If you could, which is impossible, fill up Madison Square Garden with white liberals who will die for blacks. Color means nothing, and will give up the whole system and their own people and their richness. I mean, just all out, color means nothing. If you could get 20,000, which is impossible to fill.
I don't say color doesn't mean nothing.
If we had an arena with, if we had an arena with 10 million people in it, of whites, all you say really good and mean right. If you had 10 million, you have 170 million to rule them out. So what I'm trying to say, I see a white man die in a riot. He didn't want to die, or in a demonstration for blacks. America's in Vietnam dropping bombs now.
Now wait a minute, let's get back to Madison Square Garden, because it's one thing to say that white people aren't the enemies of black people, and another thing to say that color doesn't make any difference. It does. So does race, so does religion. For instance, the Italians and the Irish in New York get along pretty well. But this doesn't mean that the fact that somebody is an Italian makes no difference at all, or that he's an Irishman makes no difference at all. The question is, are they enemies?
What I was referring to is, say that you had some whites that didn't pay attention to color. What I mean, you know, we all equal. That's what I meant to say. It wouldn't help the problem. I mean, there's so few. For every one white that you can find me that you may say that's liberal, it means right, I'm sure that you could find 5,000 to every one who would kill him for trying to help. So there's so few until...
Why aren't there more dead white liberals? How many can you count? I can count it. As a matter of fact, I did count as recently as 2 months ago, because I did a story on it, and I counted 12.
Well, in the NAACP, the core, the Urban League, and all these organizations, and many of them, they've completely dropped out. It was not too long ago in the news where that all the whites have dropped out of all these organizations. Things are getting so critical until the liberal, you don't see him no more. He just had to flee back into his own.
Oh, come on. They're coming out of the ceiling. They're all over the place. They're right here. You'll meet them in just a moment. Very articulate liberals. Look, try to understand me. That do you accept as a matter of faith that Elijah Muhammad can't deceive you?
Do what?
Do you take it as a matter of faith that he cannot deceive you?
I imagine he can deceive anybody if he wants to.
Well, now, is it conceivable that he would want to deceive you?
For what
by
reason?
Suggesting that people feel about you the way, in fact, they don't? Well, for the reason because...
Well, he's not deceiving us about white people.
Well, some people, of course, insist that he is, including Malcolm X.
No, sir, not about white people.
Yeah.
I know he's right. Everything he say about white people is right. Even when he say you're the devil.
And that's correct, too.
Yes, sir. All the way.
How did the devil make out so well?
Make out so well how?
Dominates the United States.
Oh, the Bible predicted that the devil would rule Earth for 6,000 years. Now it's
How
over.
far into those 6,000 years are we?
Oh, exactly, I don't know. If you want to know,
about halfway.
If you really wanted to know, if you really wanted to know about Islam, and I'm just a student, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is the man who could really go deep into this, you know. But
how do you account for the fact that he has been rejected by, according to his own figures, 97% of the black people of America?
Well,
how do you account for the fact that none of the prominent, with the exception of you, none of the prominent black leaders of America are subscribers to Elijah Muhammad?
Subscribers to what now? What?
To his religion, or to his movement. Not even James Baldwin, who heard it.
I would say this to you. Everything that black people are doing today come from Honorable Elijah Muhammad. They're having school problems. We want black schools. We want black teachers. This is his program. And being natural. They are black now. They don't want to be called Negroes. This comes out of Elijah Muhammad.
Does that really make any difference?
Hold it. At the latest Black Power conference, all of the black leaders got together and said, we want separate states from whites. This is stolen from Honorable Elijah Muhammad. They want their own schools. They want their own businesses, supermarkets. They're now talking about...
If you say they stole it from him, suppose I say he stole it from the communists.
Hold it.
They were preaching this in the early 30s, the Black Belt.
Hold it. What I'm trying to say is that everything that our people are doing today, every leader that you can bring up from Ron Karing of the Black Panthers, Eldridge Cleaver, Malcolm X, Stokely Carmichael, Rap Brown, people such as myself in the struggle, Everybody you can name talking black or preaching anything black, they are ex-Muslims. They heard it from, when you say why they don't follow him, they'll follow him and don't know it, but they haven't yet accepted him religiously.
Now, if you say that there is a correspondence between what he preaches and what other black leaders preach, the answer is yes, that's true. The question is, what is the significance of that correspondence? Is the correspondence between what the Democratic Party wants and the Communist Party wants? It doesn't mean that one dominates the other.
I understand. Your major question was, how come 97% rejects him?
Yeah.
Then 97% of the people really don't know enough about him to really reject him or hate him. But they are so enticing by the wealth of America. For an example, I have a black friend. I could be a Muslim. I go for what you go for. I believe the white man's the devil, but not the woman. I got a pretty white girl. So he can't join because he's got a white girlfriend.
He's not sincere. He's not sincere.
You understand? So this is why he haven't joined. Another fellow, I go for the Muslims. I go for everything you preach, but I gotta have my pork chops and ham hocks. I can't quit eating my pork.
Yeah.
Another fellow, what's wrong with a little reefer? You understand? To be a follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, you have to completely abstain from alcohol, fornication, adultery, killing, stealing, lying.
Gets tougher and tougher.
Well, yes, same with, even in the days of Jesus, in the days of Moses, and everything that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad preaches in the way of living clean, Christianity preaches, but they just don't. You can be a Christian and commit adultery. You can drink, you can smoke, you can drink wine because Jesus drank it, and you can nightclub and party, but you can't. You can wear mini skirts and be followers of Jesus. Yeah. You understand, but not being a Muslim. So I would say that the people are not rejecting the Honorable Elijah Muhammad because they don't believe what he teaches.
But it's too tough.
You're right.
It's too tough.
Well, it's not that it's too tough, but they just haven't looked into it enough to
I think that's
really
a very good
check
point.
it out. Right.
I think that's a very good point. I think that there might be other reasons for rejecting him too, because
one more thing I like to say.
His religion is a curious mixture of Calvary and the OK Corral.
One more thing I like to say. Fear of white people stops a lot. Now, I'm not naming the names, but many of your black people who come on your TV shows every week slip to our meetings, donates to them financially. Muhammad speaks is all in his house under his beds. Yeah. But when he sees you, yes, boss. I haven't
run into any of those.
Well, they're around.
Give me their names and phone numbers.
Many of the black leaders slip in his back door. Civil rights leaders, but they don't want the press to know it. And fear keeps a lot of our people from coming to what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is preaching.
Now, that fear, as related to your own experience, gets us back to the first point, which is you believe that you were reclassified because you became a follower of Elijah Muhammad, right? Otherwise, you don't.
I don't say that's totally all of it, but that's got mainly a lot to do with it.
Because I see from the Liberator magazine, the socialist magazine published by the Afro-American organization, they say, whatever the government's reasons, most black people are convinced that Muhammad Ali was victimized because he is black, because he is a member of the country's most vulnerable minority. Now, this magazine, which is sympathetic to you, didn't say because you were a Muslim. Well, they said because you were black.
I would say that whoever wrote that actually believed that this is the reason.
Yeah,
but
you don't believe it.
No. Not just because I'm black. Much money white people could make on me.
Why wouldn't the devils go after you just because
much money as the devils could make on me? Commercials, advertisements, movies, heavyweight title fights. Man, whew, millions of dollars was made in our fault. Let me tell you something.
Well, why didn't they stick with you then? Why didn't they stick with you?
I got one more thing to tell you. The government is so out to get me because of who I am, so that I can't donate to the works of Elijah Muhammad. Man, we take $1 and make $10,000 come from it.
But you've written that Elijah Muhammad refused to take your money.
Right. Let me say one thing to you. I owe him money, as a matter of fact, $100,000. Let me say one thing to you. I forgot what I was going to say. I'm thinking so. What were we talking about?
Well, you were saying about why they went after you.
Oh, right. I'm thinking ahead of myself.
Right.
See, you're a wise man, and you make a man think.
Did that ever happen in the ring?
No, boxers don't think as fast as you. They're slow. But what I would like to say is that Washington, the government, the reason I say the government's behind all of this is because I tried to box an exhibition for the poor people in Mississippi. I could have donated at least a fight. I could donate at least $750,000. They came together, the boxing commissioners. They said, well, he probably could donate a couple of $100,000 to him, but that's just a drop in the bucket. As if to say,
who said that?
The Commission of California, boxing commissioners, if to say Negroes are not worth a drop in the bucket. They weren't doing that for them. And the government had to call them because the commissioners were frightened, as if somebody from Washington had called them. Then we had another boxing match okayed in Columbus, Ohio. I'm just showing you why I know where it's coming from. Everybody that okayed it, the mayor's assistant, the governor's assistant, and the commissioner gave me a license. Somebody forgot to ask the mayor about it, and he came back hollering, I don't want no draft dodger in here. Get him out. And like he had a speech written out, somebody told him. Then we said, we're not fighting in America until we go to jail and do some time or win the case. So we went to the Indian. A friend of mine said, I can get you. I'm not pushing the fights. I have various people, Negroes, who know you all good, figure that somebody can make a way for me to make a living here in America. Yeah. I said, it's impossible. It ain't going to work. I'm a Muslim. I'm following the most hated man in the country, the most powerful. It's the only one telling the truth, and they the only works to spread and keeping me down, hoping they can stop his progress. So they said, oh, man, they ain't that hard. Elijah Muhammad ain't nothing that powerful. Their government ain't worried about it. I said, Washington is not, the White House is not going to let me fight. They went to the Indian reservation. 15 Indian chiefs all got together. Okayed the fight.
On the reservation?
Yeah, Zora Foley. Contracts was been signed. It got to Washington. Yeah. And the food supply or something was threatened. Government supplies was threatened if you let him fight. And the next day, no comment, but no fights off.
Why can't you fight outside the country?
Oh, they took my passport. They got that early. Well, I had about, I'll tell you why, I have about $3 million in Asian, African, and European exhibitions, not fights, just in the Muslim countries. They're dying to see me, so. Now, $3 million, the prosecuting attorney from Washington came to Houston, told the judge I was going to Japan for the first exhibition. Had about $500,000 pick up. They ended me making money. I didn't even need America. I was so popular outside the country. Until the prosecuting attorney came from Washington and said, Judge, we cannot let this man go to Japan to fight because they are anti-American. They're going to praise him and hail him and meet him, we understand, at the airport, make a hero out of him. They might make him a millionaire fugitive. His penalty is so serious, 5 years in prison, $10,000 fine, he might not return to the country. Now, if I want to leave the country, I know how to leave. Sure. Tomorrow, quick, easy, if I really want to leave. That's not the intention. The intention is to stop me from making a living, to punish me, you understand?
Be right with you. Mr. Ali, if you believe that, why don't you leave the country?
Well, I like to say one thing. He was right. I could be a millionaire fugitive if I was greedy and worrying about myself. Yeah. But one thing...
No, but you could give it away.
No, one thing I like to say...
I mean, you could become a Canadian and fight and send the money to Elijah.
Well, no, this is not my purpose, and he don't need my pennies.
Well, but some people do.
So I would like to say this, that the flesh and the blood of my people and their freedom is more important. Now, one thing I like to say real quick, and you said you're going to ask some questions. When the whites first came to America from England, they didn't have the air conditions, the Buckley show, and the jet planes. They had to ride stagecoaches, watch Indians scab and kill their wives, no medicine, no penicillin. But nevertheless, the first whites kept coming. They cut down the trees, the underbrush, until they made a way for you. Then they went and got them some slaves and worked them 400 years to build a country. But they died, but they never saw this, but they made a way for you. In World War II, the Japanese, his life didn't mean nothing, some of them. They had planes called suicide missions. He knew he would die. He ran the plane directly into the ship for his people in the future, for his children. Now, but black people, we've been told that we will never be free until some will have to die, some will have to give up wealth, their loved ones, and their health. So what I'm doing is for myself and for justice for black people. Running will kill it all. It'll make me a coward.
I see what you mean, yeah.
You understand?
I see what you mean,
So I would rather go to jail.
Sure. Mr. Greenfield.
I've heard you speak before about what you're doing now and how you enjoy it. But I just wonder, being quite honest with us, are there times when you miss being heavyweight champ of the world?
No, they miss me.
I know that.
No, I don't miss it. I'm not missing it. See, I would like to say one thing. Whites have been, you may say, why is he always talking about whites and blacks? Because everything happened to me is racial. It's all based on race and religion. You understand? Many boys I know, Joe Namath, George Hamilton, get out of the army and do everything, and I'm the scapegoat. You understand? So I got to think like this, since I'm a victim of all this.
You know there are white kids in jail for 5 years, don't
right,
you? In fact,
right.
those Baltimore guys didn't get 2 years. They got 6, which is more than
they
you.
got 2.5.
No, no.
You're talking about the priest?
Berrigan got
well,
6.
it must have been Wisconsin.
No.
But what I would like to say is this. Your question was...
Do you miss it sometimes? You
no.
miss being the best fighter in the world.
No, I am the best. I don't miss being the best.
But you'll never be able to prove that again.
Oh, I don't have to prove it. Can you name somebody that
Not
can
right
as much
now.
as hit me? No. So I'm not... See, you've been brainwashed to think that I'm not the champ.
Nope. Nope. I just wonder if you missed what you were doing.
No, I missed the money, not boxing.
Miss Williams.
I'm being truthful. I can box tomorrow. I can go to the gymnasium, call my sparring partners, we can box all day, but I won't get no money for it. Understand?
Miss Williams.
Mr. Ali, you've said that you're against war. I wonder how you feel about the Black Panthers' domestic war here.
Well, we black people as a whole are at war, I would say, with the white power structure. Not physically, but we have different approaches to win the battle. Like, for an example, America's in Vietnam. One American is fighting from the air. The other American is fighting on the land. Another one is on the shore shooting them with the ships. Another one is a secret spy. Another one's in a submarine. They all are fighting the same common enemy, as they say, the Viet Cong, but they have different approaches. See, black people all are fighting you all for freedom, justice, and equality. One believes that intermarriage is going to solve it. And 200 years from now, we all will be a beautiful cream color. He really believes it. One believes that getting them some rifles and shooting up the country is going to solve it. Another one believes that education, one day we'll be the president. One believes that we got to get into the white man's pockets and get all the money. You've got hundreds of billions of dollars that he'll never see I'll get to, but he believes that one day he's going to get most of the money. But we believe that the problem, the answer is separation, and marrying our own kind, cleaning up for self, doing for self, and getting some land and building our own nation. Yes. So the Black Panthers are a group who figure that they are right and doing the thing the way they see it. But we don't all agree with each other, but we're not here to talk about them. But I will say, on violence, Elijah Muhammad teaches us it's impossible to be violent against the most powerful military country on the planet. It's impossible.
Mr. Gaynor.
Mr. Ali, if you feel that the white man is your common enemy, do you foresee eventual physical conflicts between your movement and the white community?
No, sir. I would like to say that when you say my movement, when you say not my movement.
Well, the movement of
right,
Elijah Muhammad.
You got to watch all this, because you'll have me thinking it's my movement. It's not my movement. See, that's what they did Malcolm X, and he wouldn't straighten that out.
Yeah.
He would talk like it's his movement. It's not our movement. It's not like it's
Yeah.
God's
Do you
movement.
think
We
there'll be
believe.
an
It's
eventual
God's
conflict?
movement. Not only Elijah Muhammad's teaching
Yeah.
it to us.
Yeah.
Not with Muslims unless you attack us. See, after each meeting, we say that we don't believe in being the aggressor, but fight like hell against those who fight against you, but not be the aggressor, which is nothing's wrong with that. But I like to say that Muslims are never in violence with white people. It's the black man who love you. See, when you don't let him in your toilet, you don't let him in your restroom, you don't let him marry your daughter, you got to fight. So we're not going to be bothering you, you understand? Muslims don't come in, we don't have no trouble with you. It's just the integrator.
Do you allow white men in your meetings?
No, sir, not in religious meetings, no, sir. It's a family problem and discussion, and you would feel out of place. You know, I'm sure you all have many meetings we can't go to.
Few.
Few, a whole lot of them.
I can't think of any. As a matter of fact, I can't think of any, but Mr. Euler, no, I can't, really can't.
You can't think of no,
No.
meetings that white folks have
No.
and black folks can go
No,
to?
I can't. Can you?
You should be,
What?
you should be ashamed of yourself. Klan.
With the plan.
I'm
How
sure it's
could
a
they
whole,
tell?
I'm sure it's a whole lot of them. A lot of
Mr. Euler.
churches.
Mr. Lee, from your conversation with Mr. Buckley, I have assumed that if given the chance and your appeal is won in the Supreme Court, you would return to the ring. Now, wouldn't this conflict with your being an ordained minister of Islam and then therefore pacifistic?
You can look at it that way, sir. I understand what you're saying. I'm asked this question a million times in colleges. I'm in about $485,000 worth of debt now, which the court said I don't have to pay until I can earn it. And I want to pay my debt and get right out of the ring. But I would like to say boxing cannot be compared with war. We have gloves on, we have cushions, we have referees, we have judges, we have ambulances there. The intention is not to kill. We don't have steel, we don't have bullets, we don't kill mama, kill daddy, kill baby. The intention is a sport, and we're not there to kill. So boxing cannot be compared in no way with machine guns and bombs and everything that they use.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I think that's fair enough.
Yeah.
And,
Thank you.
Just in closing, Mr. Lee, do you feel that you will be able to repay this this money that you owe by future
If I'm
activity?
allowed to
You only have 5
pursue
seconds,
my
unfortunately.
profession again, yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I enjoyed talking to you very much.
I enjoyed talking to you.
And thank you all.